Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our meeting. On this first day of October, I'd like to start by expressing our sincere gratitude to Governor Hochul, Senator James Sanders Jr., Assembly Member Salages, Senator Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and Assembly Speaker Carl Hasty for their continued support for the New York State Commission on Reparations, and their advocacy and their commitment are instrumental to our process and our continued work. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the entire team at OGS for their invaluable support. It takes a lot of work to host a meeting and all the behind-the-scenes work, and we are certainly grateful for Bradley Allen, Tanisha Wright, and the entire team at OGS. Today, we're fortunate to be hosting our meeting in two locations in order to provide access to the downstate and upstate community. So we want to thank the Remington Boys Club in New Rochelle, and thank you for graciously hosting us, the Remington Boys and Girls Club. And we're at the beautiful, here we are in Syracuse on the beautiful campus of Onondaga Community College. And I also want to thank Commissioner Linda Tarrant-Reed and Linda Brown Robinson for working closely to help us with securing these beautiful venues. So thank you, everyone. So thank you to everyone in New Rochelle. As I said, we're in Syracuse, New York. And so I would like to welcome all of the public that are watching online today, and certainly everyone that attended in person. As we begin our meeting, it's important that we establish whether or not that we have quorum. So, Madam Secretary, could you please help us with roll call and establishing that we have a quorum?
Thank you. Roll call. Dr. Chanel Hawkins.
Present. Chanel.
Chanel. Dr. Lurie Daniel Favors.
Present, but not a doctor. Just appreciate you.
I'm sorry. Dr. Ron Daniels.
Present.
Jennifer Jones Austin, excused. Timothy R. Hogues.
Present.
Linda Brown Robinson.
Present.
Dr. Derek Hamilton. Absent. Linda Tarrant-Reed, present. Madam Commissioner, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We have 3 commissioners in Syracuse and 3 commissioners in New Rochelle. So thank you, Madam Secretary. We will now address the consent agenda items. The consent agenda items include the approval of the minutes from the previous meetings, updates on our video conference policy, and updates on our public policy. Before we proceed, we want to note that under Robert's Rules of Order, any item on the consent agenda may be pulled for separate discussion if a commissioner wishes to discuss the item further. If there is that need, please indicate now. If not, we will move to accept the consent agenda.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
The motion has been approved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any voting no?
Point of
The ayes.
order.
Abstentions.
Yes.
Here's a point of order.
Point of order.
Query whether any of the elements on the agenda should be reserved for executive session.
Repeat.
I believe that the only item, well, let's ask that. If anyone believes that there are any items that should be on reserved for executive session.
I was speaking specifically to the status of personnel.
We were just going to give general status.
Understood.
Yes.
I'm in favor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. So just want to confirm that this consent agenda is approved. We will now move to the next item on the agenda. I am pleased to introduce Pierre Duncan, who has joined us as the interim operations manager. Pierre is joining via Zoom today. So Pierre, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Hawkins. Hello, everyone. Hi, commissioners. So I am actually based in Brooklyn, but currently in Virginia, joining you all virtually. So I'm really pleased to be here and excited for this opportunity to help get this commission moving on its work. My background is as a chief of staff, mostly in nonprofit settings, and also I had about 5 years in New York City government with the Department of Education, working for the Panel for Educational Policy. And yeah, so I'm currently consulting, and that is how I'm coming to you now. And I'm excited to be working with you all, and looking forward.
Thank you, Pierre, and welcome, and we're excited to work with you. I also want to provide an update on the executive director position. Yes, thank you. We want to recognize that Commissioner Jenkins is on the call. And so Commissioner Jenkins, unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, but she is here. Madam Secretary, we would just want to acknowledge that she is here and present.
Acknowledged.
Thank you. So the executive director position has been posted, and so I just want to share that the commission is actively seeking a qualified contractor to serve as executive director, and you can find the position posted on the commissioner's website. If individuals or organizations or universities or firms have questions about the RFQ, the questions should be directed to the contact person today. Questions are due today, October 1st. The proposals are due October 17th, and interviews will be tentatively scheduled the week of October 28th through 31st. You can find out more about the positions that are available on the commission's website. Currently, the executive director position is the only position that is actively accepting proposals. Any other questions from the commissioners? With that, I'm going to move to the next agenda item.
This is Commissioner Daniel Favors. Could you kindly clarify the distinction between the interim operations manager and the executive director role?
Yes, the interim operations manager role will help with setting up the infrastructure for the organization. They will assist with hiring for the executive director role and subsequent roles thereafter. They also will be developing an org chart and helping to provide input for the budget. The executive director role will be a permanent position. This interim operations manager role will only be through December or until we hire the executive director. Any other questions about that role?
Yeah, I had a question. This is Commissioner Daniels. On the executive director position, I know it's out for review and for people to submit. There are two questions. Number one, these job descriptions are so voluminous. I certainly hope we're going to have someone like Jennifer Austin or someone who can distill them down, because it's like 30 pages of whatever. Number one, that's just an FYI. In scanning it, however, I noted that in that position, it was indicated that the executive director will be the spokesperson for the commission. And I'm wondering whether there will be an opportunity to review that in the process of doing the hiring, because that runs contrary to what we've agreed upon in terms of the chairperson being the spokesperson for the commission.
So thank you, Commissioner Daniels. If it says that, we'll have to make that correction, because that is exactly what we said. And so the executive director will report to the chair, and they certainly will be aligned with the commission's visions and work according to the commission. And so we'll have to fix that. So thank you for noting that. Any other questions? If not, if there are no other questions, I'm going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is the expert engagement strategy. And Commissioner Jenkins is going to lead that conversation. Commissioner Jenkins, are you still with us? Yeah, I see her on the screen behind you all. So Commissioner, can you? Ours is not coming through. Yeah, it's not coming through on our end.
Our screen doesn't indicate.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Commissioner Jenkins, can you talk a little bit about the subject matter categories and the list that you are sharing and what you need of us right now? Thank you, Commissioner Jenkins.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for getting me on the call. So we are readying up to begin testimonies from experts in various subject matters pertaining to reparations. I have compiled a preliminary list. It's very much preliminary because all of the commissioners have not had an opportunity to weigh in and to submit those experts who they believe should be added to this list. We certainly will be going forward with various subject areas and various lists. We have so far what I have submitted to the chair and to the commission, areas such as history, economics, medical concerns, general reparations. So the list that is before you commissioners is a list of those preliminary names, and I cannot stress that more because I believe it's important that all 9 of us weigh in on what subject experts we should have. Certainly, I've also submitted in that preliminary list legal minds because we definitely need to know from a historical perspective as well as what is happening in the nation now regarding reparations and claims being made by reparations organizations as well as government entities, whether local or state. And so I can't see the list right now, Chair, but you all should have that list that I presented. And if the secretary or someone else is able to share it on the screen, we can just go through those names because I'm sure that other commissioners will be familiar with some of those names. And I think we can have a discussion about whether or not these are appropriate or whatever, but we definitely want to continue to build off of this very, very preliminary list, Chair.
Commissioner Jenkins, unfortunately, I'm unable to share the list at this time. The commissioners have received copies of the list and the information, and I think that's a great suggestion that we as commissioners should weigh in on the list and, add names and experts and then share it with the public.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Chair, what do you say?
I agree. Additionally, I would ask that we consider posting a call for subject matter experts and making a space on the website, on our Reparations Commission's website, for individuals to submit for consideration their name and contact information to be considered as an expert.
Absolutely. I do agree. I do agree.
And if I may, Chair,
And
Commissioner Hawks is.
so,
I might,
so
sorry.
sorry, so I would recommend that, and I know there was a preliminary timeline set, but I think we should reset that timeline or the deadline for getting the list in, but I also believe that we should utilize our executive committee to sort of review the list and determine if we get a great return, if a lot of folks submit and we get possibly too many to be able to facilitate.
Right now, it looks like there are about 20 names on the list, so we certainly could stand a few more. Commissioner Brown Robinson?
Commissioner Jenkins and I did speak. I hadn't submitted my names because I just needed a little bit more detailed information, what was expected, et cetera. But I have since forwarded her that information, and she's in receipt of at least 3. I do have a couple more. And they hail from upstate, downstate, midstate.
Commissioner Jenkins, have all the commissioners been able to respond?
No.
Unless they've done it overnight, not all of them have been able to respond as yet.
Should we set a timeline? What's reasonable?
I think we should, Chair, because I believe and I know ad nauseum, you guys may be tired of me saying this. I think it's really important that we are able to offer the public something and ourselves so that we can really get to the meat of this work that we have to do. So by saying that, if we could have this done prior to the interviewing process and hiring of the executive director, that would be great because that is a task that the chair has assigned to that person in terms of reimbursement. But there was a wonderful suggestion by Commissioner Brown Robinson, who stated that if we can get some of these experts that we are assembling to provide their expert testimony free of charge, at least at this stage, so that we can be ready to hit the ground running next month, I think that would be great. And I can tell you from that list that the chair just referred to, at least 3 of them have already agreed to do that. So if we can do a date, Chair,
October
that
11th, is
is,
that reasonable for everyone?
I
Yes.
think so. I think so. Awesome, thank you. I took the long route, Chairwoman.
That's okay. October 11th, we'll set that as a date for all commissioners to respond.
Okay.
It's a Friday?
That is a Friday.
Have we thought about, this is Commissioner Hoag's, have we thought about how much time we are providing for these individuals to speak? Or what that might look like when we have this, this listening session?
Yeah, I think I think that's a great question. And when we get to speaking about public hearings, we should talk about what that should look like, how we as commissioners level set, fortify ourselves, and set room for hearing from the experts, and then make room for the public to speak and provide testimony.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
this is Commissioner Daniel Favors speaking. With regards to the testimony from the subject matter experts, it is entirely possible to me that the voluminous nature of what they need to report on might exceed timeframes that would be allowed for hearings. And I'm curious as to whether or not we are contemplating the ability to have sessions with our subject matter experts that perhaps are separate and apart from public hearings so that they can be recorded, certainly, to the extent that the public wishes to hear what's being said. But to combine them in what I am anticipating is going to be a hearing process that will have a lot of public contribution may tax our time in ways that are less than efficient.
I agree. I think it's important for us to, I don't want to call it an interview, but if in fact we could meet either virtually or in person, some of us, with the subject matter experts, we could, talk to them and figure out what it is, we want to focus on. And I also wanted to say that we're receiving some mail in our official reparations account of experts offering their services. So that is a wonderful way to do it, also by advertising on the website, and that is one of the things we talked about.
If I may,
I
I
think
don't.
this is a very, very crucial area, obviously, and I agree with Commissioner Favors' interest in how this is going to be handled. And I think there are a couple of fundamental questions. Number one, it seems to me that we need a process to review those who are subject matter experts. I certainly intend to submit some names. I have names that I'm going to submit. But we need we're going to have to look at who is being put forth as a subject matter expert, number one. Number two, I have a feeling that there is some need for this commission to have an opportunity to both listen to subject matter experts, but also to have some internal discussions on some of the critical questions related to reparations. I'm a little uncomfortable with going to the public before we really internally ourselves have had an opportunity for internal discussion on critical questions related to reparations. What is the level of experience? What is the level of knowledge? What is the level of people's perspective on various issues? This is a very, very, very serious undertaking. And let me just parenthetically say, this is very encouraging to see the turnout today here in New Rochelle, and I'm sure similarly at Onondaga, which means that we have to take this, and I'm not saying we're not, but I'm just emphasizing this. And I say it from the perspective in my role as with the National African American Reparations Commission, which was established to be an authoritative voice on these matters. So I'm very interested in making sure that we have, really quality testimony coming from people who have experience in this field, and to ourselves have some discussion among ourselves before we proceed to have town hall meetings and hearings and so forth.
Chair, may I weigh in? I don't disagree with either of the three commissioners who just spoke. But just to be very, very clear, and when you go through those names that were submitted to you all, like I said, those were preliminary lists that I have scoured the country, and I do know a couple of them in terms of their relationship to reparations. When I say I know them, I know of their work. I think that would be the format that all commissioners, and by the way, just for the record, all commissioners were contacted and requested to submit those experts that they like. All of them did not respond to that request. However, I think in terms of expertise, we're not just submitting, or we would not just submit anybody, right? We would be submitting people such as those who have been doing this work to be considered as experts in their particular field, and have done something in terms of restorative justice or reparative work throughout the country. I'm concerned, and I do share your concern about rushing, but I am concerned that we may get weary, as well as the public. They may get weary in the amount of time we are taking. So to Commissioner Daniel Favor's point, the time frame, I think that if we look back at the proposal made by the treasurer, Jennifer Jones Austin, of the plan that we were all also supposed to respond to within a certain time frame, I think she has laid out the subject matter according to the law itself. And that's what we should be seeking to adhere to, the way we are examining, right? We're examining first, and then we're recommending second. If you all have had time, or if you haven't, you might want to revisit the plan. And it may not be a perfect document, but it certainly puts a whole lot of meat on the work that we are yet to do in terms of hearings, whether they're our own or for the public. But I'm really concerned that the public is ready. I'm ready to see something. And to your point, Dr. Daniels, I totally agree that we should be able to state what our positions are, where we fall, where our expertise is. But we really, I believe, should be relying on these experts that we all as a group of 9 submit to give us the materials that we need to make these examinations and ultimately the recommendations. I yield.
Madam
Commissioners,
Chair,
yes.
if
Yes,
would it
Commissioner
two
Daniel
points?
Favors.
Thank you so much. 2 points. One, could you please revisit? I believe I heard, and I maybe have been mistaken, so forgive me if this is the case, but the notion of paying experts, I'd like to raise that for discussion. That's a concept I'm not quite familiar with in this format, so just wanted to confirm that I'm on the right page. And then while we do have a timeline, I reiterate once again, as I did at the first meeting, that this is an artificially imposed timeline, and that we are crystal clear from having seen what has happened in California, which was a commission that had a 2-year time frame, that the time we have been given is not sufficient. That does not mean that we tarry. It doesn't mean that we drag our feet, but it does mean that we're thorough, and we have been informed both at these hearings and otherwise, that should we need additional time in order to get this done correctly, that is something that we can approach, we can indicate to the members who put forward this commission in order to do so. And I'm forecasting that we will have to do that. But and the reason I'm dwelling on this point is because I am concerned that in light of what Dr. Daniels has raised, there is almost an industry right now of reparations experts, and I'm putting that in air quotes for those who cannot see. And so screening the experts that are suggested by any of us and having what I would suggest should be somewhat of a rubric to determine how we interact with the experts, which experts we move from the suggested list to actually being able to present in front of this body with the auspices, under the auspices of having some level of expertise. So as opposed to looking at the list and getting them all in light of that time, I think perhaps we should also have, and I do believe this would be an executive session conversation, a rubric through which each of the experts could be processed so that we can determine whether or not their expertise, one, is valid, and two, whether or not their expertise is necessary for this body.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniel Favors. I just want to say to the IT folks, if we could let Commissioner Jones-Austin in the meeting, I'd appreciate that. She's trying to get in. But I do want to say, from my observation, one of the things that I think we need to, my observations is that this commission needs to work collectively to respond to materials that are presented via email, so that when we get to these meetings, we would have reviewed these things already, and we're not asking these questions here in the meeting. It would have been reviewed already. We're
To be
sending.
clear, this is a universal question that would not be specific to any list that's already been submitted. This is about process, not specific person.
No, I'm not speaking specifically. I'm just talking about when we're asking for information or your input into the process, that there's some response from all the commissioners so that we can get this information and collectively we can move forward. But I agree, there needs to be a process. We need to understand why we are paying experts. There are people that do this. I have concerns with paying experts. So I think that's something that we need to raise. And of course, there needs to be a process established. And so we'll have to figure out how we do this, because we have this meeting time of once a month where when we do come together, we have to come together publicly. And so we'll have to either get into small groups and someone says, okay, the three of us will work on the experts, we'll develop a process. And so that is my hope, that we can do that at this meeting. And if it is Dr. Daniels and Dr. Jenkins working on the process and compiling the list and bringing it back to the commissioners, I certainly think that's the way that we do things.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think breaking down into small committees where we can actually explore and create the list of subject experts, and also, contact them, interview them, and come up with a final list for us to vote on as a body. I think that's a great idea.
So I think Commissioner Jones-Austin is here. I don't see her on screen, but she is requesting to speak.
Yes.
So our IT team is
Thank
working
you.
to get, here she is. I hear her voice.
Thank you. I just wanted to express my appreciation to Chair Hawkins for answering my text very early in the morning, letting her know that I didn't think it best to be with you because I'm feeling a little bit under the weather to be with you in person, but I am glad that I can be with you remotely. I just want to join in and say a word about the subject matter experts being paid, and I appreciate Commissioner Daniel Favors for raising this. The precedent that I am most aware of based on experience, whether it be the New York City Racial Justice Commission, whether it be the New York State African American History Commission, work done with the NYPD in connection with police reform for recommendations to the state of New York, work done to establish universal pre-kindergarten. All of these are bodies set up by government where experts, subject matter experts, were asked to come forward and to provide us with their knowledge, their experience, their recommendations. Never once did we pay someone to come forward and share their knowledge with us. When people testify before Congress, before the state legislature, as subject matter experts, they are not paid. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned also that, we have no criteria, as I think is being alluded to, for determining who is a subject matter expert and who is not. And so what would be the basis for determining who gets paid and how much they get paid? And so I'm just sharing that because I have significant concerns about doing something about paying people to come forward and
We
tell us what
lost you,
they think.
Commissioner.
Okay, I'm just sharing. I have concerns
My hand
about
is,
paying people and how we would go about paying them. And I'm not sure of the genesis of that thinking, but there may be precedent for it. In all of my work, what I know of congressional testimony as subject matter experts, this is not how things happen. And this is, while an independent body, it is government sponsored. And so I'm just a bit curious and a bit concerned. And I just say that's something that we take back. We don't necessarily have to debate it here, but I would caution us to start paying people to come and present to the body.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones Austin. I want to recognize that Commissioner Linda Brown Robinson is looking to speak.
Yes, I have the same concerns, and I did bring that up, that anybody that I would contact in the present and in the future, I didn't raise the discussion of paying monetary. This should be something that we're willing to do. We're not going to engage them for months and weeks. So, I mean, if they can't give a few hours of their time, then maybe they're not as expert as we think they should be or are. And I did
may
raise
I,
that with Commissioner Jenkins on a phone call.
may
Commissioner
I speak,
Jenkins,
Chair?
you have the floor.
Okay, so for clarification, no one is suggesting that expert witnesses be paid. No one. However, having provided the same in other areas myself, transportation and lodging when I'm in a different state was remunerated. Okay, thank you. So if you're saying that we're going to fly people from other parts of the country and ask them to do that, I'm not talking about the testimony itself. And we have had these discussions in the executive committee, at least, that has been raised there. So I don't know where the notion that we are paying people for their testimonies ever entered the picture. Now, if I'm wrong about remunerating people who are traveling far distances, even like we are remunerated for our travel, that's all I was talking about. And if I'm wrong, you all can clarify that. I don't think this needs to be something that's shelved. I think it needs to be made clear while we're here together. I never suggested paying expert witnesses. They are experts for that reason, that they are willing to give testimony. And so with the conversation that Commissioner Brown Robinson and I had, she came up with an awesome idea because I knew that many of the people I was speaking about were national and not in New York State. That is the extent of the conversation, and that is when she had the wonderful suggestion of having them provide testimony virtually. And I just thought it was a great idea, and that is what I presented. That was the extent of any remuneration, not pay. So I don't know if you all are more comfortable now understanding the genesis of the notion of pay at all.
Thank you, Commissioner Jenkins. We appreciate that clarification. Any other questions about this topic area? If not, I'd like to go back to the process for reviewing subject matter experts and how we will establish a process. Are you all in agreement with setting up a small group that will work on, their task will be to create a process for, and create a process for reviewing, whether it's a rubric, but creating a process for reviewing subject matter experts and soliciting subject matter experts?
And I might add recommended to the entire commission.
So are there commissioners that want to volunteer to do that?
I volunteer.
Is that Commissioner Daniel Favors?
Jenkins. That was Jenkins.
Okay, I'm sorry. Our screen is freezing, so we can't
No,
see
it's
who's
okay. I'm not
speaking.
even on screen. It's okay.
I'm willing to support that effort. This is Commissioner Daniel Favors.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniel Favors. So we have two commissioners.
And I would think that our interim operations manager could be a part of that process to help facilitate.
Absolutely. Pierre Duncan. Any other commissioners would like to be part of that process?
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels. So we have Commissioner Jenkins, Commissioner Daniel Favors, Commissioner Daniels, and our interim operations person. We have a group of 4. Thank you, commissioners, for your willingness to engage in a strategy to gain contributions from experts in our community. So I hope that we can get a diverse range of experts to help us with this quest. Commissioner Hoax.
So I know one of the commissioners mentioned the timing that we not drag, but we not rush as well. And so I guess I would ask, with this model, do we still think the October 11th deadline for submitting names is still appropriate?
October 11th was the deadline for the commissioners that agreed to serve on this committee or for this task. Do you want to schedule a timeline?
I
Madam
think the
Chair.
October
October,
11th was the time that we had to get them into
Yes.
the body to
Yeah.
deliberate.
And I don't think that's an appropriate time now, the 11th deadline. That doesn't leave them, given today is a lost day.
So,
So they wouldn't at least convene at the very best tomorrow.
So once again, I'm sorry, and so October 11th is not for them to be able to complete their work, but I'm talking
Right.
about the timeline for us to submit the names for them to start their deliberation process.
thank you, Commissioner Hoax. I'm asking, can you all provide a timeline that you think is appropriate, that you can get the work done?
I think in terms, go ahead. Rochelle. That's fine.
Is there, I'm sorry, I yield the floor to Commissioner Jenkins. You were speaking of the timeline?
Okay, and I was yielding back to Jones Lofton, but all I was saying is that October 11th is still a good date for the commissioners to submit a list. And then we can begin the work, those of us who just volunteered, after that list has been compiled, and we're looking at all of them together. So I thought I understood Commissioner Hoag's asking 2 questions. I think we hold to the 11th because that is a second request. And then once those are in, we begin that work. And that goes to your question about, do we need additional time, in my opinion.
Madam Chair.
Am I being heard? Am I being heard?
Yes.
I think that's fine. I would just remind us all that this is a ever developing process, and that we may find as we engage in the work that, or as we move through different stages of the work, of the process, that the experts, the witnesses, if you want to call them that, we may find that we need to hear from different people. There may be people who can speak to the history that makes them a subject matter experts while we're in that phase. There may be people who can speak to reparations in terms of compensation versus community development, or restructuring. There may be persons who can speak to how you quantify and determine who should be eligible and who not. And so just want to make sure that we understand that the compiling of lists in many ways will be iterative and should be. And so an October 11th date should not be viewed as, okay, once we get to that date, we lock down on subject matter experts. and just, yeah, just being ever mindful of that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Madam
Um, hi, may I speak? I just wanted to recommend that
Is this a
we look
commissioner
at.
speaking?
No, this is Pierre.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pierre.
No, it's okay. I don't think you're able to see my hand
Yeah, we
raised.
can. I can see you on the screen behind there. Okay, thank
Oh,
you.
okay, okay. I just wanted to recommend, since I do agree with Commissioner Jones Austin that it should be iterative, but in the spirit of that, I think we should look at submitting an initial list from all the commissioners by the 7th, which is a week from yesterday. And I think that that would give us a little bit more time to get started on looking at bios. Like I can certainly help cultivate like something that's an initial review, but I do think that we should just like buy ourselves a little bit more time since it's going to be iterative anyway, and it's just a list of names, right? Um, and that gives folks enough time, I guess, to reach out to personal contacts if they want to give them a heads up that they've submitted their names, but it's so initial. I think we should just try and get it all out now within the next 5 business days.
Thank you,
Madam Chair, this is
Commissioner.
Commissioner Daniel Favors. So we're speaking to two separate processes. The idea of submitting the list of names is fine, but we can be working on that rubric prior to the deadline for the names being submitted. I actually would suggest that we do, Commissioner Jenkins, Commissioner Daniels, and myself, and our interim. I actually suggest that we begin these conversations this week because the rubric will exist independent of the names submitted. And so these processes can happen alongside each other. And that way we will not put ourselves in a situation where we're waiting on something that could be happening right now. And by the time we finalize this version of the list, and I also second the notion that this is not something that we would want to close off as of October, because it may be that in December, we learn of a whole different question or point of inquiry that would require us to, again, go back to the well and secure additional experts. But I would suggest that the commissioners for the small group, that we begin meeting immediately, not today, tomorrow. Got a lot on the calendar for today, but begin tomorrow having conversations about what that rubric looks like, because that will exist independent of the specific names that are on the list.
I
yield.
appreciate a process that can work concomitantly. So thank you very much, Commissioner Daniel Favors. And so it sounds like we have a plan. We will look to you with deadlines of when you will submit, but it sounds like you're going to work on it now. So thank you all for your continued efforts in this area. So thank you, Commissioner Hogs. Are we going to submit to the 7th, or are we going to stay with the 11th for submitting information to the commission?
I think the 7th.
Okay.
I mean,
So-
because it's a list of names, and as Lori said, we can always submit names, and the committee is going to do the actual due diligence.
And we have a good start on the list. So the 7th it is, and then we'll continue forward. Any other discussion on this agenda item here?
I think we're good.
Okay. With that, we are going to have a 10-minute break will now be observed. And I think we can reduce it. I don't know if we all need 10 minutes, but we can make it a 5-minute late break because we started a bit late. So we'll have a 5-minute break and we'll come back at 12:37. Thank you, everyone.
Great.
Everyone, and welcome back, commissioners. Welcome back. We are going to begin with the next agenda item. I see a New Rochelle. Commissioners, welcome back. It's 12:39. Welcome back, commissioners. It's 12:39. The next agenda item is communication with the commission. Okay, the meeting has
It's called to
resumed. Thank
order.
you, everyone. The next agenda item is communication with the commission. And so we want to discuss the various ways that the stakeholders and the public can communicate with the commission. And we also have a PowerPoint that we're just going to highlight a little bit about the differences between public meetings and business meetings. And this right here is a business meeting for the commission. But on our website, if it's not posted now, it will be posted immediately following this meeting. There is a an introduction to the New York State Commission on Reparation Remedies, and I'll just share a few of the slides. I'm not going to go into the slides in detail, but I will share a few of the slides to help the community understand the work that we are doing. So on the PowerPoint, for some reason, it's not going into a slideshow for me right now. One second for technical difficulties. But if you can, it's not even moving. Okay, there we go. Sorry about everyone. Sorry about that. So on the website, first of all, thank you to all the commissioners that provided input to inform this introductory PowerPoint. This is going to be a dynamic document, so for the commissioners that have not seen this, you're welcome to provide feedback and updates, but we expect that this document, we will always continue to add to it. And so here we have just an introduction to slavery in New York City and what we've seen, and it's been documented. And thank you to Linda Tarrant Reed for her input here. As I said, all commissioners are welcome to provide input here. I'm not going to take you into the history and context, but I do want to provide you some updates as to the Community Commission, the work that we have set to do, who we are, and our core mandates. And as you see here, our core mandates are to research economic, social, and political impact of slavery, discrimination on Black New Yorkers from 1626 to present day, determine who is eligible for reparation, and hold public hearings to gather input, and develop a comprehensive report outlining the harms and reparative measures, and recommend policies and programs and restorative payments, and coordinate with local, state, and national stakeholders to ensure alignment with broader reparations initiatives. And so if you need to contact the commission or you want to learn more about our work, our official website is newyork.gov/reparations. And we also have an official email where we all get it at reparationscommission@reparations.newyork.gov. That cute little girl on the screen is my daughter, Zoe, just so you all know. We also welcome you to attend a meeting or public hearing. Today is a business meeting. One of the reasons why we're in 2 locations is because we want to make sure that we provide access to the communities that we serve. And so we're downstate and upstate. And we are the upstate commissioners here in Syracuse at Onondaga Community College, and the downstate commissioners are at the Remington Boys and Girls Club. And so You are welcome to attend any of our business meetings, but I want to highlight the difference between a business meeting and a public hearing. The primary focus of a business meeting is to take care of the internal business of the commission, to include internal discussions that you have already witnessed here today, our decision-making, the planning by the commissioners, and voting on resolutions as necessary. For business meetings, we have to establish at least 5 commissioners as being present to hold votes. These meetings are always open to the public, but because these meetings are devoted primarily to commission business, the time for receiving public comment is limited to a short period at the end of the meeting. Business meetings will be webcast. Video recordings will be available at on our website for later viewing. Additionally, public hearings provide an opportunity for the community and other parties to share input and concerns and provide testimony on topics relative to the Commission's mission and assist in carrying out its mandate that I've already shared to examine the institution of slavery in New York and recommend appropriate remedies and reparations in consideration of the Commission's findings. The Commission may invite speakers. You heard us talk about having experts to provide prepared testimony on particular topics, but the commission is additionally willing to also invite the public wishing to speak. The public hearings are focused on gathering information rather than conducting business as we're doing today. A quorum of commissioners is not required, but the commission intends to have at least 2 or 3 commissioners present at the public hearing. So that will be a difference that you will see. Public hearings will also be webcast, and video recordings will be available on the commission's website for later viewing. Additionally, if you would like to make comments, if you're unable to attend a business meeting or a public hearing, we'd love to still hear from you. You can email us and submit your written comment or testimony to Reparations Commission at reparations.newyork.gov. We're excited because we also, for those that don't have access to the internet, we know that there's still a digital divide. We will have a public phone number that is coming soon that people can call in and provide testimony or comments to the commission, and that information will be transcribed to our email, and all the commissioners will get to read that. So we are really trying to make efforts to make sure that we hear the community voice for this commission. We also want individuals to get involved, and there are a variety of ways that you can get involved. One, we want you to help us determine what reparations look like. And so whether that's economic restitution through housing, education, and employment programs, or addressing the inequities in the Black wealth gap, criminal justice, food insecurity, or environmental justice, addressing inequities in health care, investments in Black-owned businesses, educational reforms and historical recognition, direct financial compensation to descendants of enslaved Africans or African-American residents of New York State impacted by the legacy of slavery, or any other suggestions that you may have to remedy the harm and impact of slavery. So we want to hear community ideas. So you can get involved, as I've mentioned already, by attending a hearing, attending a public meeting or business meeting, hosting a public hearing. We would love, and we thank the 2 institutions today that agreed to host us, but if you're interested in hosting us in your facility, your area, please send an email to the commission. We are more than welcome to consider your request. You can email recommendations to the commission at the email address that I mentioned already, and we invite the community to really consider joining a work group, to be an official work group of the commission. We're going to talk more about that in a minute, but we want to have community members work on behalf of the commission in the subject matter areas. We also want to hear your community's dialogue, whether it's reparations in dialogue in your community. We would like to learn more about the work that you're doing, or volunteer for community outreach initiatives. Other ways that you can get involved, we're hiring. As you've already seen, I've listed the executive director, more positions to come. We'll hire operations manager, parliamentarian, historian, general counsel. All of these positions are to come. I just want to solidify that the only active open position right now that we are recruiting for, that you can still submit an RFQ or proposal to the RFQ, excuse me, is to the executive director position. So I want to thank, this is on the screen, you'll see the executive committee, but I want to thank the executive committee. We've been working hard, meeting weekly to ensure that we can continue to push the work forward. But I want to thank all the commissioners for their work and leadership as we continue to move towards this mission of finding reparation remedies. I want to make room for questions from the commission or any feedback from the commissioners.
Commissioner Linda Tarrant-Reed, thank you. I just want to mention, we're talking about subject matter experts to come and testify. We also need to think about subject matter experts who will contribute to the final report. And from my perspective, those experts are probably the people we will be hiring, because they will be researching, utilizing their experience in the particular subject matter, whether it's Black incarceration, environmental justice, social justice, housing, education. Those experts we will need, the commission will need to help us write the final report. So I think that we need to be clear there, and I'm not saying that the experts that testify won't, evolve into the experts we might utilize to write the report. But I think we have to look at this expert, group as multifaceted.
Thank you, Commissioner Tarrant-Reed. I'd also like to submit to the commissioners that as we're establishing a process for experts, we should establish a process for work groups. There are several groups that want to work alongside the commission, and we need to establish who those groups are and how we vet those groups. And I think that we need to establish a process. So I would like to ask the same group of 4 commissioners that agreed to look at the experts, would they be willing to add a task to look at how we will manage establishing work groups for the commission?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Daniel Favors, would you mind spending just a moment, at least for the edification of the bodies listening, what it is that we're meaning when we say working groups and what the vision for that looks like?
Yes, and I ask all the commissioners to add an input to this section, but I imagine that there are groups that already are working on reparations in their respective areas, that are already have ideas that can work on very specific, when we talk about the categories, maybe the categories of housing. I know that in Rochester, New York, there are groups that are working specifically on inequities in housing that may be able to work alongside the commission to help us, whether it would be with data that we can submit for our report, our final report, or whether it be expert testimony. But those working groups can work alongside the commission to help with providing that information to inform the final report.
Madam Chair, along the same lines as Commissioner Daniel Favors, I think that, and really even to the recommendation by Commissioner Tarrant-Reed, that when we look at filling out the staff for the commission, we certainly ought to be looking at one of those staff positions being a researcher, someone who is a researcher, number one. And secondly, we likely need someone who also has multiple kinds of skills, but is a good writer. So I'm not sure we need a series of experts that we're in these various areas. After we have heard and we have collected the information, then we share that information with someone who can write it up, as opposed to having voluminous numbers of people or multiple people who may be involved in that. The second thing it seems to me is there will be a number of groups in the community to which we can relate. The idea of having working groups, I have some trepidations about, because there are all kind of groups who do the particular work. There are some groups, I'm sure, who'd like to have an opportunity to be engaged in ways that may or may not be helpful to us. So if there's a group dealing with a particular issue, then we would identify that group and solicit their testimony. I'm not sure that requires a working group. I think we just tap the information and we record the information, because managing the whole idea of having working groups is a whole nother administrative task that has, first of all, it's difficult, but it's also fraught with, groups who just want to get engaged for the sake of getting engaged and managing. I mean, it can be very, 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 very difficult. So I would caution that we be very careful in that regard.
If I may add, I don't know if I can be heard. This is Commissioner Jones Austin.
We can hear you.
Uh, I just want to echo the points made by Commissioner Daniels. We have to be very we have to be concerned about undue influence, appreciating that we were appointed as commissioners, we were designated, we were vetted by the state senator representative and the state assembly by Hasty and by Stuart Cousins and by Governor Hochul. We were vetted to be the commissioners bringing forth recommendations. When you engage a quote official work group from the outside, who is doing the vetting to determine whether or not these individuals, these entities are coming with their views and beliefs? How can we determine that they are not essentially imparting to us their notions of what should be, and us not doing the work of determining that we are hearing from everybody? I'm not quite sure what the distinction is between a working group and a subject matter expert in all the work. Again, I mean, and I may, you may grow tired of me, all of you. I have, we've all served on commissions. I've never worked on a government sponsored commission that has had an official work group that was not vetted and approved by the appointing body. And so I'm very much concerned about that, doing such. And I just want to put out here, any official working group is a subject matter expert. If we have to have people who work with us to take the information provided, to distill it, to compile, to distill, to glean from it the most salient recommendations, to help us look at how to process what's been provided to us. Those are people we hired to do that, who are independent and are coming with that objective knowledge and skill set to do that work. But I'm not sure we should be bringing in working groups who are expert in a particular area and not calling them subject matter experts. Just very much concerned about that.
Madam Chair, if I may follow Commissioner Jones Austin, I'm going to go on the record as saying I suggest we don't do this. We have, again, that limited time, limited capacity, limited staff, and the ability to not just interview working groups, vet them, ensure their fidelity to the same principles that we were held to when we were sworn in. That exceeds our capacity and our scope. And I've yet to hear any indication that a working group of the sort that we're discussing would be able to provide something in that format that they couldn't provide in the format of testimony. And so none of us, I'm going to say, have the capacity to add that on. This would be a first for me as well. The idea of having formal working groups outside. Now, whether or not people form working groups, that's fine. It's beautiful. And there are members present who are a part of these bodies, and they should continue to do so. But that sits outside, separate and apart from the work of this commission. It should inform the commission vis-a-vis testimony and the other ways that the public are able to contribute. But I would also, again, just caution, we're seeing not just a a cottage industry of folks who are looking to profit and benefit from whatever happens with reparations, wherever it may happen. But there are also very nefarious groups that, whether intentionally or just as a result of circumstance, have demonstrated through online behaviors and a variety of somewhat contentious interactions that we should not worry ourselves or sully ourselves with vetting groups, determining whether or not they're qualified enough to speak to this body. I believe that's outside of the scope, and I would strongly recommend that we encourage anybody that is looking to engage collectively around this topic to submit testimony the way the rest of the public will.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniel Favors. Other comments or feedback? And so should we take a formal vote for having work groups?
I move that we do not have working groups formally recognized or formally engaged by this body.
So
I second.
it's been moved. Is there a second?
I thought I heard a second.
I
Go ahead, you say.
I second the motion.
So it's been moved and seconded. So there's now time for discussion. And so Commissioner Hogs.
And so I appreciate the reasoning behind it. I just want to make sure that I'm clear that we are saying if there are groups of individuals or organizations that the information that they want to present or provide, they should do it through the means in which the chair just provided in her PowerPoint presentation, and we can grab that data as needed and we can review it just as a regular submission to the commission. Is that what I'm hearing?
That is my suggestion, yes.
I agree.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor of not moving forward with work groups, say aye.
Yeah, with formal work groups. Aye.
Formal work
Aye.
groups.
Aye.
Any opposed? A motion carries.
Abstentions?
I'm sorry, abstentions. Thank you for that.
I will abstain.
One abstention. The motion still carries that we will not move forward with formal work groups.
So pointing,
Commissioner Hogs?
so formal public type work groups.
Yes.
So we right, because there'll be work groups that are internal to, or committees.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make that distinction.
Thank you, Commissioner Hogs. And we'll note that.
To be
for the
clear,
record.
that was contemplated by my motion, but thank you so much, Commissioner Hogs, for putting that on the record for clarity's sake. I appreciate that.
So with that, we'll move to the next agenda item. And the next agenda item is new business. And we will develop, if there's a need to develop a policy for commissioners, this probably could be an executive session, but the policy on missing meetings and our communication protocol. Commissioner Hogs.
Yeah, and I could be incorrect, but I thought we discussed that at our last business meeting, and we said that there will be a policy discussed and created out of our executive
where we're at.
committee to be able to communicate to the rest of the commission. And so I would agree with still going that route.
Did everyone hear that?
Madam Chair, there was a notification from the public, thank you so much, Dr. Cody, that we skipped item number 8. And there's a question about the public calendar. So before we go into new business.
The public calendar was removed from the agenda, so that there was an updated agenda, so that is not on the agenda. So we just defined the need for, in the PowerPoint, we define business meetings and public hearings. So thank you.
And just to be clear, Madam Chair, should there be any questions about that, that could be raised during the public comment session that will come at the end of the meeting?
And I can address it now. We do not have a completed public schedule yet for the community. We're still working on that internally. So thank you, and we appreciate your patience. So Commissioner Hogs did highlight that we did say that the executive committee would make that recommendation to develop a policy for missing meetings. Any concerns there? If not, we are ready to move to the next agenda item unless there's any other new business from any of the commissioners.
No new business, but having joined, albeit late, I'd appreciate the roll call being revised to reflect that I attended the meeting.
Thank you,
It's,
Commissioner Jones-Austin. We will make sure that the record highlights that you are in attendance. Thank you.
and the record highlights that you are in attendance.
Chair, just want to note that this is Pierre. Just want to note that I have to exit the meeting. Thank you all, and this has been really helpful, and I'll follow up with everyone that we discussed as a part of this smaller group separately. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you
Thank
being
you.
here.
Yeah, I wanted to raise a question. Did I see somewhere on the agenda there's, the executive committee is taking up the question of executive sessions? Number one, is that the case of the definition of that? Number one. Secondly, in that regard, I would, in light of the discussion today and some of the issues that were raised in terms of our own internal understanding on a range of matters and issues, to talk about the fact that I think it would be important for us in the not too distant future to in fact have an executive session for to discuss some of the items that we were discussing on the agenda today.
Agreed.
Preferably before the next public meeting.
So, I'm sorry, Commissioner Daniels, you just want to clarify that we have to pull the definition for executive sessions. I don't have that in front of me, but it is highlighted in the public law section on what we could discuss in executive session, so I just need to pull that, and unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me today.
Point of order.
Commissioner Daniel Favors?
I would just once again reiterate that the extraordinarily limited definition and interpretation of the public meetings executive session provision has been read and interpreted for this commission in ways that speak to the extreme and do not allow for the effective functioning of this body. As I've said before, this is the only commission that I know of that has adhered to this extreme of a limited view of what constitutes an executive session. And I would strongly suggest that we operate the way every other commission in the state of New York operates, and that we handle executive session business that is broadly understood to be executive session business in the way that other commissions do. I'm still boggled that we have been provided this definition of executive session that seems to belie the way that every other commission in the state seems to operate. And I just want to note that again for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniel Favors. I agree that it makes it difficult for us to operate and move forward without being able to communicate with all the commissioners about executive, things that should be discussed in executive session. So I'm in agreement there, and I think this is something that we should move forward with and further explore. So thank you for that.
I would also just, Madam Chair, suggest that if there is broad agreement on that as this body is self-constituted, that we move forward with incorporating the definition of executive session that other commissions do, because that is our prerogative as a commission. And it would seem to me that if this is the only commission being held to this extreme standard, considering the ways in which this commission has already been hampered with a structure that has us at this late date of October discussing minutia that should have been properly delegated before we were even sworn in, I think we can take it upon ourselves to make that decision and move forward with the people's business. I yield.
We're in agreement. With that, we can move into executive session after the public comment section. Because right now we have the public here, and so we will make some time available for public comment, and we will begin with, we will open the floor for public comment and we will begin with New Rochelle. I'm sorry, Commissioner Holtz is asking for the floor.
I apologize, and I did have one thing as far as the new business. I think we need to, and with our operations coming on board, we have to figure out our communication to the public of our meetings and our events and how we're going to do that. New Rochelle, it seems like you have a room full of individuals. Here in Syracuse, we don't have that same attendance by the public, and so we have to figure out what is going to be our standard for making sure that Dr. Daniel, stop, man. We don't be bragging because you got everybody there, man. I hear you. I see you, man. I see you. But no, because we do
Tim, we
want.
did an e-blast.
I saw him, but we do want the public to be a part of this, and so I think for us to be able to effectively utilize social media or whatever other outlets is important to be able to get this out. And so we do have to figure that out.
Commissioner Brown Robinson.
I have that same concern as you, Commissioner. I was surprised to see all the chairs, and then I realized that I never got any public notification through other mediums besides the commission we're on. And then to talk to Commissioner Tarrant Reed and see how many people are there, I wondered whose responsibility is it? Is it ours? Is it the state's? They're involved in everything else we're doing, so why isn't it that they did notify individuals that this was a public hearing and it was open to the public? I think we as a commission need to do something about that, but then the state also needs to, because we don't even have our local representatives from the governor's office, from other state agencies here on the ground.
So I just want to highlight that this is an independent commission, and so we can hire a marketing team to help us with marketing. Certainly want to make sure that our state officials are here and present and part of the process, but we also sent graphics to commissioners, and so for myself, I sent information out and did some blasts, and hopefully you all will continue to do that. But we will look to Pierre Duncan to help us with hiring a marketing team so that we can share this information and get more people here.
As a commission.
Chair Hawkins, I just want to talk a little bit about, the marketing push that we did in Rochelle. Not only did we utilize the marketing materials that OGS sent on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but I also contacted the local press, who put in a very large article today about this public meeting. I also did an e-blast to all of the community organizations that I was either a member of, the churches, the police department, to my local officials. We have representation from Senator and Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins' office, and we had the mayor of New Rochelle here. And again, we have the deputy commissioner of the police here, and a very robust attendance by local residents who are extremely interested in reparations. I feel that it's very important as individual commissioners that we utilize our base of contacts to push out the word, and that we do not demand or depend on the state of New York, who does not know anything about the city of New Rochelle and the Black community in New Rochelle, or brown community, or beige community. So my feeling is that we as commissioners, regardless of when we hire the communications firm, I think that's important because it's a lot of work, but we are going to have tremendous input in the marketing of this commission. The more people know about the work we're doing and the process, again, like Commissioner Favors says, we were hampered at the beginning. So we had a very slow start. And people really don't understand the difference between the New York State Commission and the California Commission. The California Commission is the commission of the state that sat in the Department of Justice. So when those commissioners, opened up with their first Zoom, which they were allowed to do, we were not allowed to do that. They talked,
That's right.
they talked about all of the things that were going to lead to their final report. The Department of Justice created or helped create a list of experts. They even interviewed the experts online in front of the public. A lot of things were, pre-done for them. We, on the other hand, are setting up everything. We set up this meeting ourselves in New Rochelle and Syracuse. We had a lot of help from the department, the Office of Government Services. But technically, we're like orphans. We're sitting wherever we're sitting. So, it's important for the public to understand that we are handicapped in so many ways, but that is not going to stop this commission from issuing a report on reparations and getting our communities, all of the communities in New York State, to understand, the harms that were caused. So we have a twofold mission here. We have to educate the public, all of the public, about the institution of slavery and what happened and what was the result, what were the harms. And once we define the harms, we can look at reparative justice. And until we know exactly what happened and how that has impacted on our Black society today. So this commission, we're examining from 1626 all the way up to present day. So, we're trying our best. I think we're doing an incredible job. I think all of the people on this commission are dedicated and believe in reparations. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Tarrant Reed. Any other comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, and to my friend Commissioner Hogue, to all the commissioners, I just want to say from the moment we arrived here, my little demonstration was not trying to, shove anybody.
I'm joking with you, man.
But I got to tell you, from the time we got here, it was clear that Commissioner Linda Tarrant Reed had turned out her posse.
All right, all right.
Record.
That is
I
awesome.
love that. This is Commissioner Jones Austin. I very much appreciate Commissioner Tarrant Reed's remarks and would just encourage us all that as we think about subject matter experts and the deadline given us for October 7th, that we center. If we can't think about experts or we don't have the time to think about experts from historical perspective through to reparations and reparations remedies, that we begin with looking at and thinking about who are the historians, not just New York based, but elsewhere, who can lean in and help us to appreciate what has been, what was, and what has been, and even what continues to be the New York experience. And so beginning there would be very important, and maybe even looking at some of our academies of learning to see, who are the experts sitting in our institutions, be they our SUNY institutions or elsewhere, who can come along and provide expertise and engage them. But just think about beginning there, consistent with the process.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones Austin. Any other commissioners?
Point of order, we're still in the public comment session.
We have not entered public comment
Understood.
section.
There's some question from the audience. I just want to make sure that we.
We have not officially, we're about to, we have not, we're still taking new business from the commissioners. So just want to acknowledge that we are going to try and go into executive session, and so I don't know how you all will handle out, it's easier for us to clean our room out, but I don't know how you all will handle it in New Rochelle. And so,
May I suggest we do our public comment session first and
no,
then
yeah,
go
we
into
are, but I'm
executive
just
session?
asking, how do we make that happen? You have a room full.
Well, once we conclude
we-
public
we-
comment
we-
session, we
right.
can we can bid our dues.
We can handle them. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, so we will now open the floor for public comment. I want to acknowledge that this session is only for 30 minutes. Each individual will have 3 minutes to share their comments, and I kindly ask that you respect the time limit and ask that the Madam Secretary please manage the time. With that, we will submit the floor for public comment in the New Rochelle area.
Please make your way to the microphone so that our fellow commissioners can hear.
Thank you. And also state your name and affiliation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Jackie Cody. New Yorkers for Reparations is here to support all commissioners here. I, as an individual, am here to support you as well, and you have a community of supporters rooting for your success. So with that said, you want people to show up at your meetings? Set a calendar and post it on your website. Set a calendar. Since the first 2 public meetings were in Albany, then all commissioners, if able, should have attended here in person here in New Rochelle. Next meeting, perhaps Long Island. After that, further upstate, and one in New York City. Give all New Yorkers a fair opportunity to meet the commissioners together, because those upstate, they know you guys, hopefully, and like in New Rochelle, we know. Folks from the city, we know each other. We got to have an opportunity where we meet all of you at the same time. So there should have been at least 5 of your first meetings all together. Moving forward, the calendar must be a priority so the public would know how and when to schedule their time. In addition, so they can attend. In addition, at the second public meeting, it was mentioned that the time of the public meetings be in the evening in respect of people who work during the day. But I'm sure you all will, that'll be a variety. So items you have control over, such as the calendar, because I'm very sensitive to the fact that you did not have a staff. I feel that you should have had one before you were sworn in. So I'm very sensitive to that. However, having been on groups that operated under the open meetings law, the first thing we did was set a calendar so that our public know when we would meet and when to find us. And so the calendar could have been accomplished at the first public meeting. No one else can set a calendar for the commissioners. That's one thing that you all have control over and have to do for yourselves. In a nutshell, we're here to support your work, but the basics need to be in order, and I thank you for the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cody. I just want to acknowledge that Dr. Jenkins had to excuse herself. And so we thank Dr. Jenkins for joining on Zoom.
Good afternoon, commissioners in New Rochelle and in Syracuse. My name is Divine Prince. I'm the president of the U.S. Freedmen Project, the only organization to be invited by the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian caucus to teach on reparations and how to get it right, since this legislation has been moving through the legislature. The sister broke it down very, very perfectly with the calendar, so I do not have to emphasize on that or reiterate it. The one thing I will say, though, is if the other commissioners follow the lead of Commissioner Taryn Reed, we're asking that you guys take ownership of this task force. You have been appointed, but like she said, she extended and went through all of her resources to make sure that the public was informed on how to get here and when to get here. And if there is a calendar, then other organizations like mine, like others, can also assist in that work, because I found out about this meeting last minute, maybe days before. I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm not from New Rochelle, but I came because reparations is a passion project of mine for me, my ancestors, and my people. So with that being said, I would like to say on the subject of who is eligible for reparations, that is something that has been tasked by this committee, this task force. And so what I would like to say is that the definition of African American is anyone that has any origins in the Black racial groups of Africa. That means Black Americans are African American, Afro-Caribbeans are African American, and Continental Africans are African American. What that does is it takes it out of a status-based or a harms-based model and makes it race-based. That is unconstitutional no matter how we feel about it. And so when Dr. Daniel says publicly that today's Afro-immigrant is tomorrow's African American, he's absolutely correct. And when a Commissioner, Daniel Favors, says that Black Americans can be deported as well as Afro-immigrants online, what that does is it takes our claim and racializes it. Now that sounds like something that is justifiable and something that is well-intentioned, but the bottom line is that no matter how we feel about it, it is unconstitutional and it puts our reparations claim in jeopardy. Racial justice is something that is a worthy cause, and we should fight it. But racial justice is not reparations, and reparations is not racial justice. Conflating the two puts it in jeopardy, and we just cannot do this, because as you guys know, with Commissioner Reed saying that we are proverbial orphans in this thing, we're only gonna get one shot at this. And if we do it wrong, we won't get another shot, and doing the race-based model runs the risk of it succumbing to the same fate of the Fearless Fund, the racial aspect of affirmative action, and also the race-based Illinois Reparations Fund in Evanston. That's being challenged as we speak, and it may or may not be overturned, but if we stay away from race, we can hop over that hurdle altogether. So thank you for that time, and I appreciate the work you guys are doing.
Thank you very
Divine
much.
Prince.
Angela Davis Farish. I am the chair of the African American Advisory Committee for the City of New Rochelle. And yes, to all the commissioners, thank you for taking time out to really expound about what your work is and what it will be. Just like someone mentioned about calendar, there is a community out here that don't have access to technology. So hopefully there will be some discussion, how do we get the information out to those community? We have elderly people who don't have access to, some type of technology to see a calendar. It is very important that, we aim to include everyone, and I think that's something that in our Commissioner Linda Taryn Reed, we've talked about this many times. How do we get information out to those communities who don't have access to technology? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Next.
Davis Farish.
Hello, my name is Ralph Dawson.
Closer.
Hello, Ralph Dawson. I'm a New Rochelle resident. Supported the reparations movement since it really popped off in like 2016, 2017. Thank you for all of the work you've done. I would just like to say, when we talk about these online movements, let's remember where reparations started. Offline movements, we confronted politicians, we rallied, we got the message out. Without the online movements like ADOS, where it all started, none of this would be happening. Regarding this meeting, I just found out about this meeting from a Twitter space. I had no idea it was gonna go on, but I'm glad I found out about it. I think we need grassroots reparationists, and that would be the online people. And there are some disagreements, but I think that we do have a special place in this, being that we did start from the grassroots. There was no talk about reparations before 2017, 2016, and I think those are the people we need at the table. Thank you for the mic.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Rochelle. Chair Hawkins, I think.
Thank you,
It's your-
Commissioner Tarrant Reed, and thank you to all the community members that are in New Rochelle. We thank you for showing up and providing public comment. With that, I want to thank everyone for attending today. I'd like to thank you for joining and want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the two organizations that hosted us today. Thank you to the Remington Boys and Girls Club and to the beautiful campus and leaders here at Onondaga Community College.
And I want a special shout out to the CEO of the Remington Boys and Girls Club of New Rochelle, Becky Manzanoble, and the executive director, Yolanda Robertson. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tarrant Reed. Also, we want to thank all of the public who participated and shared their comments and who watched and streamed online. If you have comments that you'd like to make and you didn't have an opportunity to do so today, you can still submit your comments via the website, and we encourage you to do so. We also want to thank all of the IT, because it was a challenge to make sure that we talked about setting it up. We actually reached out and reached out to companies and solicited RFQs to make sure that we got the best company to do this work, and we thank Dream Labs for being here today. In addition, we thank Rose Notes for being our transcriptionist and note-taking. Thank them for their support. Also want to thank all of the commissioners for your leadership and your dedication and your commitment to this work. And I'm particularly grateful to the executive committee for the additional time that they spend to advance the work and also the preparation for this meeting here today. If there are no further comments, this meeting is now adjourned, and we will prepare for our executive session, and we will make that happen in 10 minutes. So at 1:40, we will have our executive session.
I move to adjourn.
I second the motion.
And thankfully, according to Robert's rules, we don't have to do this, so we can officially adjourn now.
Sorry.
That's okay. This meeting is now adjourned at 1:31 p.m.
Okay.